I didn't think of it as generosity at first. It was more like upkeep. Every month there were the same lines on my banking app: electricity, water, internet, a little extra when the gas bill spiked. 5 years of payments stack up quietly when you don't announce them. I never said, "Look what I'm doing." I said, "Are you warm? Is the fridge working?" Love as a checklist. My parents accepted it the way people accept weather: present, useful, not discussed. If I called to confirm a bill was paid, my mother would say good and move on to whatever neighbor drama was unfolding. My father liked to talk about how proud he was of my sister, how independent she was, how she never asked for anything. It didn't occur to him that independence looks different when someone else is covering the ground beneath your feet. I told myself I didn't mind. I had a steady job, I had a child and a routine. Money went out, peace stayed in. It felt adult-controlled. I'd learned early that if I didn't step in, things would fray, and then everyone would look at me anyway. So I stepped in before being asked. The night I asked for help wasn't dramatic. My daughter had a fever that broke late afternoon, and my sitter canceled. I had an overnight shift. I couldn't move. One night, 12 hours. I rehearsed the request on the drive over, careful to sound reasonable, grateful in advance. They were watching television when I arrived. The volume was loud, the room dim. I stood near the doorway like a guest who hadn't decided whether to sit. "I need a favor," I said. "Just tonight. Could you watch her? She's better now, just tired." My mother laughed, not cruelly, not loudly, a small, surprised laugh, as if I'd made a joke that missed its mark. My father didn't turn his head. "We're not your servants," she said, and waved a hand toward the screen. "We're too old for that." It was the lightness that did it, the ease, as if the last 5 years were a misunderstanding, as if my request was an imposition out of nowhere, rather than the only time I'd asked for anything back. I didn't argue. I nodded. I left. In the car, the words replayed themselves without heat, like a recorded message you can't delete. That night, after I found a backup and got my daughter settled, I opened my banking app and canceled the scheduled payments, all of them. No announcement, no email, just the click of a button that had been there the whole time, waiting. It felt administrative, almost boring. I slept. The next days were quieter than I expected. I waited for guilt to arrive, for the phone to light up with accusations. Instead, there was nothing. I went to work, I packed lunches, I paid my own bills, and noticed with an unfamiliar calm that there was room to breathe. On the fourth day, a letter arrived at my parents' house from the utility company. Final notice, the kind printed in block letters that don't soften themselves. On the fifth, the power went out in the afternoon heat. On the sixth, a welfare check was triggered when a neighbor called, concerned about the elderly couple without electricity during a heat advisory. An official car pulled up, a clipboard, a knock that doesn't take refusal personally. This is how authority moves: quiet, procedural, undeniable. They called me that evening. My father's voice sounded smaller, pressed flat by embarrassment. "The power's off," he said. "They came by, said something about non-payment," I said. I kept my voice even. I stopped paying. There was a pause. My mother took the phone. "You could have told us." "I asked for one night," I said. "You laughed." She started to cry. Then a sound that usually softened me. This time it landed differently. Not as punishment, not as victory, just as consequence, finally finding its address. They showed up 2 days later, standing at my gate. It was late afternoon. Neighbors were watering plants, watching from the corners of their eyes. My parents looked older than they had the week before, or maybe I was seeing them without the filter of obligation. "We didn't mean it like that," my mother said. "You know how we joke." "I know how you rely," I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list receipts. "I'm not cutting you off from my life. I'm cutting off the assumption." My father nodded, the way people do when they're being told the rules of a place they didn't realize they were visiting. "We'll manage," he said, pride trying to stitch itself back together. "I believe you," I said, and I did. They would adjust.
My sister would notice the gap where money used to appear without explanation. Systems would realign. They asked if they could see my daughter. I said, not today. Not as a punishment, just because boundaries need time to set like concrete. You don't walk on it right away to prove a point. After they left, I stood in the quiet of my house and felt something close to grief. Not for the money, for the version of family I'd been maintaining alone, like a set held up by ropes behind the curtain. Weeks passed. The payments stayed canceled. The calls became shorter, more careful. When my parents spoke to me now, there was a new note in their voices, a recognition that help was no longer ambient, that it came with weight and choice. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steadier. Dignity, it turns out, isn't loud. It doesn't clap when it arrives. It just stands there, solid, asking you to notice how much energy you used to spend keeping things from falling. Sometimes I miss the old rhythm. Sometimes I wonder if I should have explained myself better. Those thoughts come and go. What stays is the knowledge that fairness isn't cruelty, and standing firm doesn't require spectacle. I paid bills for 5 years. I asked for one night. Now everyone knows what things actually